Are you ready, Joel? Okay. All right. Okay, we're going to go ahead and begin our work session. Item A, governing body, Keep Carroll Beautiful sponsorship for the e-recycling event.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Marty Griffin, and I'm the executive director of Keep Carroll Beautiful. And I am back for year number 3, I think, or maybe 4 this time, to talk to you about electronics recycling and hopefully get a permission to use the Vplex again for our spring event, and hopefully get another sponsorship for from the city of Villa Rica. Every year we host this event twice. There's one session in the spring and one in the fall. The one in the spring tends to have more people cleaning up their attics, garages, basements, replacing electronics, maybe, trying to get rid of some of the items replaced by Christmas presents, and it's a good time to collect all the electronics. And since this is the busier event, we try to host the spring one on the Villa Rica side too, so people don't have to drive all the way to Carrollton for that event. So I brought with me some of our 2024 annual reports. I'm sorry, it's still early. I know it's 10, but I have our annual reports, and I have our sponsorship request letter. We have a graphic designer on our board now. I don't know if you can tell, but our papers are beautiful, so I brought them in to share with the council and with the city employees. And if you guys are interested, I can share some of our statistics from last year, because I just sent them to Jackie, who was working on some reporting for the city of Villa Rica with the APD, I believe. So we collected almost 50,000 pounds of electronics last year. And I believe 5,300 pounds were collected on the Villa Rica side. This location is a little bit slower than the Carrollton one. Carrollton services all the other cities in the county, so Whitesburg, Bowden typically make their way to Carrollton too. But over 5,000 pounds collected is the biggest collection we had in a few years. So we were very excited to have 73 vehicles bring us 39 TVs, 39 CRT TVs, so the old ones are kind of deeper, and 75 flat screens from the Villa Rica side alone. And the TVs are the only item that we have to pay for recycling. It's about $20 per the CRTV, and then the LEDs are about $15. So any funding we received from the city of Villa Rica goes directly towards covering the cost of that event. We also had 38 participants out of the 300 for our hazardous waste, which was held at Midway, and then the fall paper shredding, 10% of our participants were from Villa Rica as well. So we always get participation from the city. And again, I always get that question. Our events are open to residents of Carroll County and anybody else who comes to the event. So we don't discriminate based on the Douglasville location. So if there are any Douglasville people in the mix, as long as it's not the tires, and the county side can be a little bit funny about our tire recycling, the events are open to everybody.
Any questions from council? Martina, one question.
Yes, ma'am.
Since it's a recycling of electronics, do you want to give a disclaimer? Sometimes people have a concern about safety. Do they need to wipe clean their computers?
Sure.
With their personal information, that type of thing.
Absolutely. We use the same company. We always use. This is our 17th year of hosting the electronics recycling. We partner with Atlanta Recycling Solutions. They are R2 certified, which means they can handle all of the data collected on the devices collected, and they securely process them, at their facility. So we collect it into a Southwire Project gift tract most of the time. The truck is then logged and sent to a locked facility where it's being held until they can process it. So I know a lot of people are not 100% sure they want to drop off their electronics, but if it's a computer, you can always drill through the drive, or you can, reset the device to factory settings. I don't do that personally because we've worked with them so much. It's a reputable company, and everybody can check their certifications, but you can always remove the data from your computer if that makes you feel better. But we trust the company we work with. They are it's almost 20 years partnership, and we never had any issues with that.
Okay, that's good to know. Anyone else?
And if the city has some old electronics stashed somewhere, screens, old keyboards, any servers, anything that does not need to have sometimes you need to have your serial number collected for reporting purposes. I know that with government, the computers may be an issue, but, we'll be happy to schedule a pickup from Villa Rica city facilities too. We did that for most of our past sponsors. So if there is like a bigger amount of electronics that you need to get rid of, we'll be happy to schedule a bulk pickup.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Is anyone opposed to making this consent item number 1? You don't have to stay.
Do you want me to drop the file? Yes.
Thank you. Okay, next item, Board of Ethics appointments.
All right. Kevin Drummond, City Attorney. I went back and reviewed the video to make sure I understood where we were on this, but so we've appointed 2 people to the board. The mayor had given a name. There was a motion to accept and a second, and then you withdrew that nomination after that discussion. So we're back to the point of you making a recommendation to see if there's a motion to accept that person.
Yeah, there were 2 positions to appoint. One I could appoint outright. The other one required council approval. And so with the confusion that occurred last time, what I did was went ahead and did the one that was outright, which is Mr. Barthay. And I'm bringing back Connie Flowers now that there's been time for council to review the application. She also sent a resume, which really isn't required, but it's helpful because it gives you more information about the person. And I also passed on to council phone number and email so that if you wanted to talk to, the candidate in a sense for the board, that opportunity would be there and ask them questions and basically almost do like a little interview if that was. So that's what I'm doing. I'm bringing forth Connie Flowers back to nominate her basically for the other appointment position that's available. Questions from council?
Is this something that's going to go on consent, or this is something that would require a vote?
It could go on consent.
Oh, I'm opposed to it going on consent. I still have some questions for you.
All right, well then, we can just carry it on to the
Sounds
Okay.
good.
to the calendar then.
Right? Building development, item B1, Mr. Griffin.
Good morning, Nick Griffin, Deputy
Morning.
Director of Building Development. I'm bringing an item to you guys today in reference to J&M Tank Lines and their plans that they have submitted to the city. J&M Tank Lines has been before the council before to request a variance, which was granted involving some gravel. And so after they received that variance, they submitted some civil plans for the development that were fully approved. They have not been issued a land disturbance permit yet, but they are ready for permitting. They asked us to just hold off for just a bit while they worked on some things behind the scenes. Here recently, the Shrugs Company, which is Sunbelt Asphalt Manufacturing, set up an appointment with city staff, and they have requested to install a asphalt manufacturing facility behind the originally approved building that was proposed by J&M Tank Lines. They are here today. They've also created a PowerPoint, which Ms. Leanne can pull up here in just a bit, and they would like to speak on their behalf of their request and kind of explain the impact of this asphalt and the revenue and the tax revenue that could be generated. There is no water sewer impact for this type of facility, and they would still like to construct the original building that was approved in their civil plans. They would just like to add some equipment behind that building. Asphalt manufacturing is an allowable use in Zone I-2, and so the staff recommends the approval of this asphalt manufacturing. So essentially, they have made two requests, and I'll allow them to come up here and verbalize those a little better than I can. But they would like the approval of an asphalt manufacturing fixed plant behind the original building that was approved. And they'd also like to keep their permit status with a change of ownership. They would like to purchase this development from J&M Tank Lines. There's two options here. They have worked with J&M Tank Lines, and if the asphalt manufacturing is approved, but the council and the mayor would like it to stay under J&M Tank Lines, they would do that. But they have requested to change that ownership as well. And I'll be happy to answer any questions the best I can. If I can't answer it, I'll refer to the Sunbelt representative who created this PowerPoint, who's going to be doing this presentation.
Questions from council?
Okay, just so I'm clear, Nick. So J&M Tank Lines is no longer involved in this project?
They are currently involved in the project and are willing to stay involved in the project if the council wishes.
But the building that I guess for the variance for J&M Tank Lines, they were going to do, I can't remember what the use was exactly, but it was like a
Essentially an operations shop.
build. Okay.
With
yeah.
office space. And
Okay. So are they going to, is J&M Tank Lines still going to be using that? And then this is going to be in addition?
I will
to
let them
that?
answer that question. That'd be more pertinent to them.
Okay.
From my understanding is J&M, depending on the council's decision, may or may not be using that building. And I know that's a little open-ended answer, but
Sure.
that's why I would defer to Sunbelt and J&M to answer that.
And then I guess my next question is, are they still going to be desiring or using the variance that we permitted to have gravel there instead of asphalt?
It is my understanding that they would still appreciate to use the variance for the gravel, and most of the time, as you know, those variances run with the land.
Right,
And
okay,
with that parcel.
okay.
I don't know, if we could have the person introduce himself that will be doing the presentation. That way I'll have a name to work with. Thank you, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Mayor and Council. Jeremy Heidel with Scruggs Company. Do you want paper copies of this?
That'd be fine.
Thanks for seeing us this morning. Just wanted the
Yes, sir.
opportunity to introduce our company, tell you a little bit about it, the economic impact, and share. There's some letters of recommendation there from the Mayor of Auburn and our Public Works Director. So the Scruggs Company is part of a group called Construction Partners. We're a public company that does asphalt manufacturing across the Southeast, from Texas, Oklahoma, North Carolina, down to Florida, and of course here in Georgia. Have about 6,000 employees now, 95 plants. We are vertically integrated, so in some cases we crush our own rock, and we have the terminals that bring in the liquid asphalt that goes in the asphalt. I share all that with you just to kind of give you an idea of the size of our company, and that, you know, we're a serious operation that operates, you know, out in Atlanta and outside of Atlanta. The next page are our asphalt plants around Georgia. We have quite a few, from Columbus all the way down to Valdosta, Auburn, Commerce, and hopefully Villa Rica. We were under contract with J&M Tank Lines for this parcel. It was perfect for us because the site was already permitted, and the site, the elevations worked for us, everything worked. We do see Villa Rica as kind of our West Metro headquarters. So I'm based in Auburn, and it's about as far this morning to get from Auburn to here as it is probably to get from Birmingham to here. So this would end up being our kind of Atlanta West headquarters. We are asking, you know, to go ahead and purchase the property from J&M. They've been kind enough with the moratorium to stay involved if they need to, but we would really prefer, and it would be much easier to deal directly with the city for us to purchase it directly. If you go on to zero impact, we always make this point that, you know, the asphalt plant itself is, you know, there's 3 operators. They'll use the facilities in the building. Water is not part of the asphalt manufacturing process, and there's no waste, and so there's no additional sewer demand required for the plant. Something that a lot of folks don't know is that even these DOT projects and state projects, asphalt is taxed at the point of sale, and so the city would get their share of the sales tax revenue, and that's even when products go into the county, the city, or the state. we still pay the sales tax there. The plant is considered equipment, so it is taxed as business personal property, so we're subject to that. We expect our property tax to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000, the business personal property tax on the plant, about $60,000 in state and local taxes of about $750,000. The overall investment to this site is $8 to $10 million. Eventually, I just kind of lay out our employee stats. Eventually, and not every employee is based here, obviously a lot work in the field, but this being kind of the West Metro headquarters would be up to about 100 employees, and we're proud to pay above average wages compared to kind of industry standard. Because we're a public company, we have employee stock purchase programs, stock options, bonuses, great health care, and so on. So I say all of this just in you understanding kind of who you're working with, and we really do appreciate your consideration. There are a couple letters, like I said, from the mayor of Auburn, and our plant now is across the street from Public Works, and she wrote a very nice letter to let you know that we're great neighbors. We are involved in our community, and yeah, we're great neighbors. So I appreciate your consideration. Like I said, we would like to purchase the plant or the site from J&M so we can continue. Mr. Griffin pointed out it is zoned correctly, so we're not requesting any change there. And we appreciate it. Yeah, that's it. And if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them.
Council, any questions for Mr. Heidel? Yes, Councilman Warmoth.
What exactly is the impact, the environmental impact on this?
So asphalt manufacturing, we are drying stone and mixing liquid asphalt. And so I think there's a lot of misconceptions that we're actually manufacturing something. We're mixing ingredients. So environmental impact, the extent of it is really we use natural gas. And so there is natural gas exhaust. Liquid asphalt, too, becomes a solid once it reaches kind of temperature. Room temperature, if you will. So there's no chance of leaking. It's also held in a containment area, so if a tank were to leak, although it's not an environmental hazard, it would be contained.
Okay, so you guys already have a plan. I mean, this may seem like a silly question
Yeah.
because, I mean, as a business owner, you would make sure that you already have a plan for something such as that.
ma'am.
But there is a plan, right?
Yeah, there is, and I'll tell you, because we have so many plants. I mean, we have someone that's kind of head of environment and sustainability. We have certain thresholds of social responsibility we have to meet as a public company that go well beyond, us being regulated by the Department of Natural Resources.
Okay.
And EPA.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
There's nothing that's gonna be in the air as far as contaminated.
No, ma'am. The Public Works director mentioned this. We are at our plant in Auburn, about 800 foot from residents, and we've never had a complaint. So we do burn natural gas like many manufacturers, but that is just in the heating of the rock. And so if you ever see something coming out of our plant, it's literally the liquid vapor coming from the rock because we have to dry it to make the asphalt.
Well, I do have a question. So, so this parcel was previously granted a variance for, basically to waive the requirement for asphalt parking.
Yes.
Is that something that your use is also going to require, or is that necessary to your use?
We would prefer it, but we're in the asphalt business, so we can get a pretty good deal on the asphalt. If you'd like us to pave it, we can pave it.
Yeah, I think because, the consideration at that time, from what I remember, was that essentially these tanker trucks are going to be coming in and out, and it was going to tear up the asphalt anyway. And so this was actually increasing the pervious surface was actually better than impervious surface because it allows
That's right.
all that. I just don't know if that, your use, though, warrants all those same considerations. So
There's still heavy truck traffic, and the water table, is a bit high there. So
That's right, I
I
forgot
think
about
they're
the water
worried
table.
with kind of just the soil stabilization aspect of it.
Okay.
Like I said, we're in the asphalt business, so if it was a concern of the cities, we'd be happy to pave it.
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't see anywhere on these plans for anything such as a retention pond. Is that something that would be a necessity for this type of,
Yes, ma'am, and we're going to leave the retention pond as designed and approved by the city, so it's on the, I guess would be the west side of the lot there.
well, I see the existing wetlands, but where's the retention pond?
It's kind of a funny shape outlined just to the left of the black area, and it's kind of going around the wetlands there. Do you see that? If I can approach, I'll.
Yes. Sorry, I must be overlooking it.
Yeah, I don't think it's labeled.
It's right here. So we're keeping
Oh,
that-
this is.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, it just wasn't marked. That's why I didn't
Yep.
realize
Sorry
that
about
that's
that.
what it was. No, it's okay. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Heidel.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your consideration.
I had a question for staff or
That's
Mr.
what I was going
Drummond
to say. Let's
specifically.
revert back to staff just for a minute, because I'm good as long as y'all feel comfortable, and I'm looking at the recommendation. I am recalling now when we talked about the gravel and everything else, that's all coming back with the water table and everything else. So, Councilman Montahan, go ahead.
Well, I guess either Nick or Diana or Kevin, whomever, I don't understand the transfer of ownership thing. Is that the moratorium, I guess, limit transfer of ownership?
I'm guessing y'all probably wouldn't even see this if the moratorium wasn't in place because
Right.
the use is appropriate for the zoning.
Right.
So.
But somehow
with-
the
with
transfer
most-
owner,
With most vested issues,
Mhm.
it goes with the land, not with the ownership.
Right.
So.
but I guess so, yeah, and that's, I think that's what's kind of, I don't understand where the transfer of ownership part came in. Is that
I don't-
something in our moratorium or ordinance says if transfer of ownership, then also
I
it?
think staff just felt more comfortable,
I see,
since there
okay.
was a moratorium, to get council approval before granting any permits, because they're not supposed to be granting permits
see.
during the
Okay.
moratorium period.
I see, okay, thank you.
So other than the moratorium, this would have just been taken care of at the staff level?
Yes.
Okay. Is anyone opposed to making this consent item number 2?
No.
All righty, that'll be number 2.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Public Works.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
Mayor.
yes.
So I guess, okay, I know it's consent item, but there were multiple, there were 3 potential motions in there, so we probably need to give direction as to what we're consenting to,
Okay,
if you
so-
want to.
All right, so it's broken down into 3. One is to move to approve the request to allow the addition of the fixed asphalt plant, as its addition does not require additional sewer access and is allowed per the zoning, but deny the request to transfer the ownership. Okay, so that was one motion. The other one is to move to approve the request to allow the addition of a fixed asphalt plant, as its addition does not require additional sewer access and is allowed by the zoning permission, and also to transfer ownership while also preserving our permit. And the third would be to deny both requests. So those are the 3 options. If we were going to put it on consent, as a consent item, we would have to be okay with with motion number 2.
If not, I think I'm okay with that. I mean, that's kind of why I asked about that transfer of ownership question. I didn't really see what the holdup was on that, but I don't know if the rest of the council have any input as to.
Is that clear for everyone? I think it helps too for the people watching to know what the options were there. So are we good to go with consent agenda?
I'm good, yeah, just for clarification, we're consenting to motion number 2 there.
Okay. That'll be motion number 2, which basically is I move to approve the request to allow the addition of a fixed asphalt plant, as its addition does not require additional sewer access and is allowed by zoning permission, and also to transfer ownership while also preserving your permit, or our permit.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to Public Works. Item number 1 is Thomas Dorsey, 3-way, Eleanor Walk, proposed 1-way. This does require a public hearing, so this item will not be decided until Tuesday, but let's go ahead and hear what we have discovered so far. Presentation.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Hale
Morning.
Burke, Public Works Director. So we're here again discussing the addition of a three-way stop on Thomas Dorsey Drive and Eleanor Walk. Just to kind of recap what we had previously discussed, we had done a traffic study, we conducted a traffic study between the dates of January 15th and January 22nd and concluded a combined 85th percentile speed of 34 miles per hour in a 25 mile per hour zone. Not quite hitting the threshold of where traffic calming would be required. We did because it is so close, I guess we did see that there was a concern needing to have some sort of remedy, and we'd made an original recommendation of having three-way stops at Daniel Road and Thomas Dorsey, as well as Eleanor Walk and Thomas Dorsey. There was much discussion had on that matter in regards to how that would impact traffic on Eleanor Walk. We had met with some officials from the school, Councilwoman Warmoth and myself and some members of the school system had met and tried to explore some different options as well as see exactly what was going on there. Throughout that process, a recommendation was made to turn Eleanor Walk into a one-way, which would then create potentially the safest situation, because if not, the three-way stop would ultimately create a situation where traffic would back down Eleanor Walk and then ultimately spill out onto Route 78, actually causing an additional hazard. It's my understanding that there's been some discussion about how this one-way could impact a business owner on that street, and I really believe that the recommendation is to inconvenience the least number of people. I mean, I guess someone will always be inconvenienced, but our job is to make a recommendation to try and make it safe. And even though again, the parents will be driving on that road twice a day, but I do understand the concern of the business owner as well. Certainly the other option, the only other option is to do nothing, I suppose, which would be the final option. We could just do the three-way stop down at Daniel, and the least impact, I suppose, to anybody, I don't know if that's the correct answer, but would either be to make a one-way stop on Eleanor Walk or just do nothing, not put the three-way stops up at all. And ultimately, I guess that's your decision.
Okay, so we discussed them all together last time. It's been split up now, just to clarify, so that this aspect that requires a public hearing has to do with if we were going to at least consider making the street a one-way.
Correct.
And then the item as far as the three-way stop, that will address that next. Questions from council or concerns?
Like I said, there's two houses that,
Councilman
to me,
Marchman.
right there by Thomas Dorsey and Eleanor Walk. So was those two houses informed of what was going to be done?
So there's only one house on Eleanor Walk where the driveway actually comes out to, and it's my understanding that house is abandoned or vacant. And other than that, then there's the two businesses down at the very end, one being Putting Around, and the other one, it's at Pico Volt or something like that anyway, down at the other end.
You see a house there's the one that's right there on Thomas Dorsey and Eleanor Walk on that corner. Somebody lives there. And then the one across the street by the church. Those are the two that I was talking about. Were they informed or told what you're going to do?
I have had no communication with them, no ma'am.
I know we have to.
Are you looking at the cover sheet? I
Yeah, I was
have,
looking at the cover sheet a little bit, but,
okay.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, it says the addition of a three-way stop, the subject, addition of a three-way stop on Thomas Dorsey Drive, Eleanor Walk, with Eleanor Walk becoming a one-way, and the motion has to do with to approve the addition of the stop signs, but that's the drive at the location, that's in regard to the second. Am I
So
not
the-
right? That's related to the next item we're going to cover. Did you put, are those
There
put
were
together
three-
for a
there-
purpose that way?
There were three-way stops at both locations, three-way stops on Eleanor Walk and three-way stops on Daniel
yeah.
Road. The three-way stops on Eleanor Walk really have to go hand in hand with the one-way, because without the one-way, the three-way stop will create a traffic situation out on December.
Okay, so that's why the motion is
Yes.
written that way. Okay,
Yes.
thank you, I appreciate that.
All right, so my question, maybe for Hal, Kevin, or Diana, whomever, but are we required to send like a certified mail notice or anything to the property owners? Or is it just public hearing, and that's it?
Just public hearing, and public hearing isn't even required. We just felt like it was a really good practice. It kind of came up in conversation. It wasn't something that we just wanted to throw out there and
Okay.
vote on without hearing from the public on the matter. So we have noticed a
Okay.
public hearing. Absent that, we can alert the neighbors again as a good practice, but not required.
Sure, okay, yeah, for some reason I thought that when you kind of change a road or something, there was like a notice and public hearing issue thing, but I guess not.
I think the businesses know from what I've heard, so I
Right.
think they'll be at the public hearing, but I don't know about the residents.
Okay. You hear that, Miss Shirley? If you know anybody down there, you might want to let them know.
Yeah, I know both the houses that I'm talking about, the one by the church and the one right there on the corner.
Right.
Those would, that's where I was concerned about. But, I mean, I can talk to them.
Miss
I
Shirley,
happen to
Yes.
know 'em.
it,
Councilman Wormuth?
it looks like the one house that you're talking about next to the church actually exits off of Thomas Dorsey. Is that correct?
No, it's facing Thomas Dorsey, right there by the
Yeah, it's
church.
facing Thomas Dorsey and the driveway is on Thomas Dorsey, so it would not be impacted by Eleanor Walk. It would just be the one house that I believe Mr. Howell had mentioned was abandoned. And then the other business that you're referring to, it looks like there's a second entrance that is on 78. So that one wouldn't necessarily be impacted the same way as putting around.
Oh, you talking about the house on Eleanor Walk is the one that you say is abandoned? Oh, down by
Yes.
Millways, Eleanor Walk.
midway, yeah, between the
okay,
road, yeah.
Okay, I see.
So,
That one. But I was
just-
talking about the one up right there on the street where Thomas Dorsey and Eleanor Walk. That's
Yes,
the one I was talking
yes, ma'am, that's what I was, that's why I pulled up the map, and it looks like that house that you're referring to, the driveway is on Thomas Dorsey. It faces Thomas Dorsey, so it would not be impacted by Eleanor Walk, like any changes from Eleanor Walk. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. That's why I was asking, I mean, it wouldn't directly affect them, but still, as courtesy to, to let them know what's
Right.
going on.
I agree.
Right, like the neighbors, they may not exit out there, but that's a road they use. And if all of a sudden they can't go a particular way. I did receive a concern from business owner that does loading and unloading there, and that it would be a complication with the trucks that come and all. So I expect, and I've heard from them, I don't know if others have, so that's something that will need to be taken into consideration. And I understand that they'll probably be here at the hearing.
Respect.
Yeah, to check on that. Okay.
Mayor?
Yes.
I have a
Councilman
if I may.
Momdahan.
So I've seen like in some communities though where the road would be, two-way up to a certain point and then it's one way. Is that, since this is so close to 78, is that something that we could consider here after a certain point?
I would suggest at that point in time, us looking back at the budget and putting the calming measures on Thomas Dorsey, because I
see.
think the cost to do that would exceed kind of where we're at
Okay.
anyways.
Sure.
Yes, we talked about that as a possible solution
Okay.
and taking portions of the road out to thin it to
Right.
make it a true one-way. But I think at that point in time with the cost, you might as well just go back and put the speed humps on Thomas Dorsey.
I see. Okay. Thank you, Diana.
Any other questions, concerns?
You said put a speed bump. Was that what you said? Oh, did you say put a speed bump on Thomas Dorsey?
From an overall cost perspective, if you're trying to find a solution that assist with traffic calming measures. Turning it into a one-way helps the flow of traffic on the three-way while not endangering or causing any safety concerns. But the cost to do what Councilman Momtahan was suggesting by allowing it to be a two-lane roadway to a point and then thinning it out, at that point in time, the cost involved, you may want to go back and look at just putting speed humps on Thomas Dorsey in lieu of that.
So basically, it would be cost prohibited. So
Right.
I think we're back with what we're doing here. This does have to come back on Tuesday. If there's no other questions or concerns, we'll go ahead and move on. All right, item 2, this has to do with the actual three-way stop.
Right. So we had split these out. Originally, the original conversation was to do the three-way stop on Thomas Dorsey Drive and Daniel and Eleanor Walk. And it made sense to just make those two separate issues. So the second item is just to address the three-way stop or make a recommendation to put a three-way stop at Daniel Road and Thomas Dorsey. The overall road, because of its length and character, does promote, I guess, I don't want to say a higher rate of speed. And so this will at least do something at that end of the road without impacting any other traffic around the area. So we would certainly recommend that at least we would put this or move to approve this one at least.
I know I'm glad to see it because of way back I received complaints about the speed on sections of that road and a little bit of a blind area, and the sidewalk is so close to the road, there's like no buffer. And hopefully that'll make it a little safer in addition to what happens at the school. Questions on this aspect of the three-way stop with the stop signs from council? Concerns? Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 3?
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you. Main Street Plaza paving project, item C3, Mr. Teal.
Yes, ma'am. We received bids last Friday for the Main Street paving project. We had approximately 8 bids ranging from $112,000 to approximately $195,000. The low bidder is Magnum Paving, which they are local, and low bid was $112,097.50. There is a drawing in the packet, which is one more sheet down. So that is the area that we're talking about. So part of it is North Carroll, and then that's Temple right there, right? Temple/Main, same thing.
We do that on purpose to confuse
I
people
know.
between Main Street and Temple, and we call
Yes,
them both
ma'am.
Main Street.
There is some milling too, so that will help in some drainage problems. Any questions?
I have a question if no one else does.
Councilman Momtahan?
So, previous administration was proposed restriping this to be one way at the time they did this project. Is that still a consideration?
As far as I'm aware, no.
Okay. Is that, because I get a lot of feedback of people who are entirely confused by this, and especially now that the little parklets are gone, people are still further confused. Is this a one-way or two-way? And obviously it's all angled parking in one direction, and that makes people believe that it's going one way, but it's really two-way, et cetera, et cetera.
I
So
don't disagree. I feel the same way when I drive down it. But
So-
according to the bid documents, the striping goes back like the original, like it is now.
okay.
I was just going to add to that conversation. The scope was to go back with the same, but there is a larger scale project that looks at Temple and Main Street as an overall downtown streetscapes. And they're looking at, nothing's off the table right now in terms of design for that. They had a workshop and got some feedback from stakeholders, business owners, property owners. But right now, they're kind of looking at both ways in terms of, does one section of road close? Where does parking go? Where does green space go? So there is a bigger solution coming.
Was that part of the meeting that I had to cancel on you the last moment?
Yes, sir.
Understood. I'll try to stop by your office sometime this week to get more insight on that. Thank you.
That
And
is-
we are receiving some more data on that, and we'll get that to you.
Excellent. Okay.
That is true. Going back years, council was asking one way and actually requested that it be made one way, but now that we have a bigger future plan of what's going to occur with that entire area, including the upper part, once, when that becomes our street and the bypass is finished. So I think that's what made all the difference,
Okay.
Councilman,
I appreciate that.
is that bigger plan of changing the whole area. Any other questions or concerns from council on this? Good to see the parklet will be going back. Anyone opposed with this being consent item number 4? All right, that'll be number 4. Item D, city manager.
This is, I think in total, the third time, the first being the original proposal for a design for the left-hand turn lane addition at Mirror Lake Boulevard. So I'm going to read from the cover sheet to kind of catch everybody up with where this whole project is at. So the purpose of this agenda is to obtain approval of the design prepared by Falcon Design for the Mirror Lake Boulevard left-hand turn lane project. The original scope of work approved October 8th, 2024 included surveying, engineering, design, bid document preparation, and construction administration. This approval will allow us to finalize utilities, submit to the state, and complete the preparation of bid documents and provide construction administration. So a little bit of background again. Falcon Design submitted a proposal for the following scope of work as it relates to the addition of a left-hand turn lane on Mirror Lake Boulevard prior to the light at Villa Rica Parkway. That proposal included project scope and fees for survey database preparation, underground utility locates, construction drawings with technical specifications, right-of-way and construction easement plans if needed, an engineer's estimate of probable cost, and bidding assistance. During the original update provided earlier this year, council asked questions regarding the location to be widened, as well as the potential use of a pass lane. Falcon provided the following reasons or explanation. We did not consider widening the left-hand turn lane from the center line towards the development to the south due to the following factors. There would be conflicts with existing stormwater, water main, telecom, conduit, and utility poles on the south side of the boulevard that would require relocation. At this moment, our design only impacts one water main gate valve and the few existing streetlights on the north side in contrast. Proposed widening on the south side would require the reconstruction of existing grass slopes, decel lane, curb and gutter, commercial signs, sidewalk, and concrete islands associated with private access, requiring more involvement with the developer and any existing commercial tenants, and likely requiring construction easements. By widening from the existing center line to the north, we are able to avoid affecting all hardscape features on the development side and only impact the existing multi-use path for a portion of the project. Proposed widening plan east of the private access will require modification to the existing guardrail on the boulevard, regardless of lane placement, due to the taper required for the left turn lane storage area. By widening on the north side exclusively, we are only impacting one side of the existing guardrail instead of both. The proposed guardrail on the north is necessary due to the limited clear zone between drivers and the multi-use path adjacent to the boulevard and doubles as shielding for the proposed retaining wall in the design. These factors altogether justified widening solely to the north as it is the least impact on existing infrastructure and development while remaining the most cost-effective solution for the present conditions on the corridor. Additionally, the GDOT standard for a right-hand passing lane includes a 100-foot minimum passing area with adequate tapers on either side to return to the original edge of pavement. Our concern with this option is the lack of a comprehensive traffic study showing AM and PM peak hour queue lengths for vehicles turning left into the site access that could exceed this minimum length. The presence of 2 or more left-turning tractor trailers would partially block the tapers, creating an unsafe condition for passing traffic. The current left turn storage storage lane represented in the plans provided is per the GDOT design policy manual and provides 230 feet of storage and a 50-foot taper, greatly decreasing the likelihood of this event. If the city chooses to pursue a passing lane option, we will need to investigate the site access traffic operations. And finally, we also asked Falcon Design Engineers about the right-in and right-turn-out discussion previously held, as well as wanted to provide additional context to that alternative as well. To create a right-in, right-out, we would need to convert the entrance to a concrete island, as well as provide a grass median or concrete island on Mirror Lake Boulevard to prevent anyone from attempting to cross left. Per our meeting with Falcon, GDOT will not approve a right-in, right-out without a raised or divided center median. As this would still require additional tapering and guardrail, there would not be much savings as a potential alternative. So just for everybody at home kind of following or wanting to know where the progress is on this, because there were a lot of questions the last time we presented this, and for everyone as well, we did discuss this heavily at our workshop a few weeks ago. So wanted to bring this back before you guys as an official motion to approve this design, as staff does recommend approval of this design from Falcon for the left-hand turn lane at Mirror Lake Boulevard.
Thank you. We did discuss it extensively at our work meeting. Any other, at this time, questions and concerns about it? I think we're probably pretty much on the same page.
Can I add one other comment in
Oh,
Anna's
absolutely.
absence?
Yeah.
I do want to say we did talk about this update at the Mirror Lake HOA meeting last week. We did talk about how much that multi-use pass would go, but that it would require no purchase of right-of-way or easement on any private property.
Is anyone opposed to making this consent item number 5? All right, that'll be number 5, and the grants. You get to do that too.
Yes. So this is the 2025 Community Development Grant Application Request. First, from the Villa Rica Lions Club in the amount of $8,500 for a Sail On Beach Boys Tribute Band fundraiser concert that will be held at the Mill Amphitheater on Saturday, October 4th, 2025. The Villa Rica Lions Club, Golden City Lions Club, and Villa Rica Lions Club began having a concert in 2023 as a fundraiser event for both clubs. Previously, the clubs hosted a Taste of Villa Rica that was held in October of each year at the Mill Amphitheater. Unable to host that event any longer, the clubs took on a new way to raise funds to support their community activities and donations by hosting a fundraising concert. Fundraiser concerts offer a unique and dynamic way to raise funds for a cause or organization. Staff recommends approval of the 2025 Community Development Grant application in the amount of $8,500 from the Villa Rica Lions Club for the Sail On Beach Boys Tribute Band fundraiser concert, again to be held at the Mill Amphitheater on Saturday, October 4th, 2025. The impact fundraising by the Villa Rica Lions Club serves to address pressing needs in their communities by locally fulfilling their mission of We Serve and making a positive impact on the lives of others.
These items, I'm sorry, you had told us that you just received them, so I imagine that council wants more time to look over this, before a decision is made on Tuesday on these 2 grants. But on this particular one here, before we move on to the Thomas Dorsey birthplace, any questions? Yes, Councilman Warmoth.
Let me start by saying I very much miss the Taste of Villa Rica. It brought a lot of the restaurants together, and it allowed for citizens to learn about restaurants that they may not have known were around Villa Rica. So I'll get off my soapbox on that, but I do very much miss Taste of Villa Rica. So have we donated, because I don't recall, have the Lions Club, received a grant from the city in the past?
Yes, ma'am.
In this amount?
Last year's was $8,000. This was a request for $500 more.
Okay. And I'm only asking because I'm only one council member up here, but I wouldn't have a problem with this going on consent if this is a typical, because I don't recall from last year. And that's why I asked about that, but I wouldn't have an issue with this going on a consent item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, both of if it helps at all with the background. Both of these, the one that'll be next, also Thomas Dorsey, who has been in service a whole lot longer than the Lions Club, and just for
31 years.
31 years. And just for disclosure, I am a member of one of the Lions Clubs. But the reason it moved, because I think we all missed the Taste of Villa Rica. It was a wonderful event. What happened was the business model just didn't work anymore. We had less restaurants. We had less that could participate. Some of them just couldn't give up that day to not be working, or they didn't have the staff to be there. And Carrollton also does a Taste of Villa Rica, a Taste of Carrollton, but it's not a charitable fundraiser, so they charge nothing for vendors and everything else, and it just made it unworkable for the Lions Club, so they transitioned to a different event. Any other questions from council?
Full disclosure, I'm also a member of the Villa Rica Lions Club, so, but I understand this is consent, that's not a concern, so.
So what is the will of the council? Because we could move this on. We have one council member that's fine with consent. If others are okay with consent, we can do that. I just didn't know if you all needed more time, but it's not a new thing to us.
I'm fine with
It's
consent.
something that has been going on, so.
Okay. All right, great. All right, so that'll be consent item number 6. Y'all are just going to love Tuesday. It's going to be like a special gift. All right, the next one for the grant, Thomas A. Dorsey Birthplace and Gospel Heritage Festival.
The purpose of this item, the Thomas A. Dorsey Birthplace and Gospel Heritage Festival has submitted a community development grant program application in the amount of $10,000. This is for their annual event that will take place from June 27th through June 29th at the Mill. A little background again. The Villa Rica Community Development Grant was established by the City of Villa Rica to foster and fund activities, projects, special events, sporting events, and programs that promote eligible tourism and cultural activities within the city. The program receives its funding from the City of Villa Rica General Fund and an annual appropriation by the City Council. The 2025 total available funds are $20,000. The organization, the Thomas A. Dorsey Birthplace and Gospel organization, was established soon after Dr. Dorsey's death in January of 1993 to recognize his birth, July 1899, in Villa Rica, Georgia, and to foster and encourage the study of African American anointed gospel music of the kind he is often credited with. In July of 1995, the organization presented the first annual Thomas Dorsey Gospel Festival in Villa Rica, and as Ms. Marchman just noted, this is the 31st year of the festival. Staff recommends the approval of the 2025 Community Development Grant Program application of $10,000 to the Thomas A. Dorsey Birthplace and Gospel Heritage Festival for the festival to be held on June 27th, 28th, and 29th, 2025 at the Mill Amphitheater. And again, the impact this festival promotes the businesses, hotels, restaurants, and stores located in the city of Villa Rica. The grant gives financial assistance to programs and events that culturally and economically are beneficial to the city of Villa Rica.
And that's a really good explanation because it shows that there's criteria in putting in these requests. Any questions from council? Recommendation for consent? Oh, yes.
Just real quick, since I asked the question about the last item, how much did we donate last year?
$10,000.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Will of the council, is everyone all right with making this consent item as well?
Yes.
All right, that'll be consent item number 7.
Thank you.
Before we review the consent agenda, anything else council wants to bring up related to the agenda? All right, I'll go ahead and read them off. If I missed anything, let me know. It's a little easier on this agenda. It's about half the length. Consent item number 1 is Keep Carroll Beautiful sponsorship event for the e-recycling, electronic recycling event. Item number 2 is J&M Tank Lines, the asphalt manufacturing. Item number 3, Thomas Dorsey and Daniel Road three-way stop. Number 4, the Main Street Plaza paving project. Number 5 is the request for approval of the current Mirror Lake Boulevard left-hand turn lane design. Number 6 is the Lions Club Community Development Grant. Number 7 is the Thomas A. Dorsey Birthplace and Gospel Heritage Festival Development Grant. Staff, anything else? City manager, anything? We're finished.